And now for our AA meeting. Good time for an AA meeting, don't you think? Let's begin with a moment of silence, followed by this, or just a moment of silence for this still suffering alcoholic. Thank you. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of people who share their experience, strength, and hope with each other that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, or organization. Neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. There may be some here who are not familiar with our tradition of personal anonymity at the public level. Our public relations policy is based on attraction rather than promotion. We need always maintain personal anonymity at the level of press, radio, and films. We respectfully ask that AA speakers and members not be photographed, videotaped, or identified by full name in audio recordings and in publicly accessible reports of our meetings on public media platforms. The principle of anonymity is at the core of our fellowship. Those who are reluctant to seek our help often overcome their fear if they are confident that their anonymity will be respected. Our tradition of anonymity guards AA, reminding members that we are a program of principles, not personalities, and that no individual AA member acts as a spokesperson of our fellowship. Out of respect for others, please do not take photographs or videos during any of the meetings at the International Convention. Also, be considerate when taking photographs around the convention venues, and take care not to capture images of anyone who has not given permission. Even if you have permission to take photographs or videos, our traditions guide us not to post any content that identifies AA members in public media, including the internet, websites, and on social media. Thanks so much for this. Next up, please welcome Jim L. to the stage. I've asked Jim to read a portion of How It Works, Chapter 5 of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. This is the very foundation of our AA program. Before reading this, we ask that you, our audience, allow Jim to read this portion of the Big Book without interruption or audience participation. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Jim, and I'm an alcoholic. And this is how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Those who do not recover are people who cannot or will not completely give themselves to this simple program, usually men and women who are constitutionally incapable of being honest with themselves. There are such unfortunates. They are not at fault. They seem to have been born that way. They are naturally incapable of grasping and developing a manner of living which demands rigorous honesty. Their chances are less than average. There are those, too, who suffer from grave emotional and mental disorders, but many of them do recover if they have the capacity to be honest. Our stories disclose in a general way what we used to be like, what happened, and what we're like now. If you have decided you want what we have and are willing to go to any length to get it, then you're ready to take certain steps. At some of these we balked. We thought we could find an easier, softer way, but we could not. With all the earnestness at our command, we beg of you to be fearless and thorough from the very start. Some of us tried to hold on to our old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go absolutely. Remember that we deal with alcohol. Cunning, baffling, powerful. Without help, it is too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Half measures availed us nothing. we stood at the turning point. We asked His protection and care with complete abandon. Here are the steps we took, which are suggested as a program of recovery. Step 1, we admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2,
Nous en sommes venus à croire qu'une puissance supérieure à nous-mêmes pouvait nous rendre la raison.
Step 3,
Decidimos poner nuestras voluntades y nuestras vidas al cuidado de Dios, como nosotros lo concebimos.
Step 4,
Wir machten eine gründliche und furchtlose Inventur in unserem Innern.
Step 5,
Визнали перед Богом, перед собою та іншою людиною справжню природу своїх помилок.
Step 6,
Oleme dausen valmet anteman jumalan poista kaikki nama luonteemme hekotet.
Step 7,
私たちの短所を取り除いてくださいと謙虚に神に求めた。
Step 8,
Fizemos uma relação de todas as pessoas que tínhamos prejudicado e nos dispusemos a reparar os danos a elas causados.
Step 9,
Лично возмещали причиненный этим людям ущерб, где только возможно, кроме тех случаев, когда это могло повредить им или кому-либо другому.
Step 10,
Abbiamo continuato a fare l'inventario personale e quando ci siamo trovati in torto lo abbiamo subito ammesso.
Step 11,
Dążyliśmy przez modlitwę i medytację do coraz doskonalszej więzi z Bogiem, jakkolwiek Go pojmujemy, prosząc jedynie o poznanie Jego woli wobec nas oraz o siłę do jej spełnienia.
and step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as the result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. Many of us exclaimed, "What an order! I can't go through with it." Do not be discouraged. No one among us has been able to maintain anything like perfect adherence to these principles. We are not saints. The point is that we are willing to grow along spiritual lines. The principles we have set down are guides to progress. We claim spiritual progress rather than spiritual perfection. Our description of the alcoholic, the chapter to the agnostic, and our personal adventures before and after make clear three pertinent ideas. A, that we were alcoholic and could not manage our own lives. B, that probably no human power could have relieved our alcoholism. And C, that God could and would if you were sought. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. This morning we have a 3-speaker meeting. I'd like to invite Marty S., Justin R., and Paz P. to the stage. And to start our meeting off, I'd like to ask Marty to speak.
My name's Marty. I'm an alcoholic. I want to thank Patrick and the GSO for inviting me out. I have a sobriety date this November 10th of 1977. I have a home group. Most of them are over here. It's the Pacific group of Alcoholics Anonymous. I have an online group called Stay Connected. Only about 70 of you can show up for that, because then we run out of room. I have a sponsor. His name is Carl M. He's the homeless looking dude over here in 244. One of my superpowers is I have the ability to know what you guys are thinking. And some of you are probably thinking, what's a nice guy like this doing in a place like this? And our warden gave a nice little pitch. Thank you, Warden Lamb. But I don't know if you noticed, when he stood up, about 4 or 5 people exited. Those are the ones that have not cleaned up their past. All the other offenders are still sitting here. You know, I was born and raised in the San Bernardino Riverside area. I'm half Eskimo, I'm half German. My mom was the Eskimo. My father was the German. I did not know my mom. I'm the youngest of 3. My sister's here. She's over here in 215. She also got sober in 77. She's got 8 months more to the day than me. And she lets me know that every single day. We both came in when we were 15 years old. We met people like my buddy Matt, who's my bodyguard over here. Don't worry, he's not a threat. But he was like 16 or 17. You know, back then we used to think somebody coming in who was 18 years old was old. And we'd think, of course they're getting sober. They have nothing else to live for, you know? I didn't know my mom. She moved back to Alaska when I was 11 months old. And my father, who just passed away last month, passed away with 50 years of sobriety. And before he passed, we were in order. I have 47 years, my sister has 48 years, our mom has 49 years, and he had 50 years. That's a lot of sobriety. Coming to our dinner is like going to rehab. One of us are going to 12-step you, even if you don't need it. I have more sobriety than I do a drunkalog. So I'll just tell you this, that I qualify. I drank so much I used to drink my bong water. And if you just oohed that, you tried it. But I drank between the ages of 9 and 15. And in those 6 years, I racked up a couple DUIs, a few breaking and enterings. I've been dropped or kicked out of multiple schools. And I was on probation by the time I got to you guys. So I belonged here. And when we were new, Cindy, Matt, and I used to hear all the time from other old people about my age today that would say, I spilt more than you drank. And then my sister came up with a great response. She would look at these old guys and old girls and said, if you wouldn't have spilt so damn much, you would have got here at my age too. I heard her say that, and I wanted to say it so bad. But everybody quit saying that to us. So I've been waiting for about 46 years for somebody to say that to me. Like I said, I came into Alcoholics Anonymous at the ripe young age of 15. I was scared. I was clueless. I didn't know what to do. I often followed my sister Cindy, but I followed a lot of other people where I got sober, which is in Simi Valley, California. And whatever they said from the podium, I would do, because I didn't know what to do. So if you guys said you got a sponsor, I found out what a sponsor was, and I went and got a sponsor. You guys would say you got a big book and you started reading the big book. I found out what that was, and I got one of those. So on and so forth. One of our great members of Alcoholics Anonymous passed away, I think it was this year. His name is Johnny Harris. But he had a really good saying of, this is a monkey see, monkey do program. And I get that, because I just followed the monkey in front of me. And Johnny would often back that up with, it's up to us to pick the right monkey. So I figure I picked a lot of the right monkeys because I'm still here. And my sobriety has been fun to you guys, not to me. I've made a lot of bad choices. I've said a lot of bad things in sobriety. You know, it's been fun. I've been walking around this conference over this last week, and a few of you have been staring at me. And I know it's because I'm not famous. But I was the secretary of the Pacific Group when the pandemic went down. And so that's where a few of you know me, because there's 1,300 people every single week from all over the world attending the Pacific Group meeting. We maxed out on the Zoom capacity of 1,000, and we started live streaming into Facebook, and there would be about 250 to 300 people there. You know, one of the things that the Pacific Group was known for is having a ton of commitments. Live, we have all kinds of, there's somebody who has the commitment of replacing the toilet paper in a bathroom. At our old location, we used to have gum scrapers that would go out on the city street and sidewalks because you didn't want to get kicked out of that area, and we'd have to scrape the gum off the sidewalk. We do whatever we can do to get invited back. But when I took over this meeting, I took over from a lady named Duffy, who's over here in section 215. And God bless her, she didn't know what she was doing. I mean, the whole world went down to a pandemic. I was like, what do we do? And when I took over, she had about 8 commitments. And I was chatting with a few of my peers, and we said, you know, the Pacific Group's known for its commitments, because we have hundreds of people that have commitments. So I started fabricating commitments online. And one of the commitments I had 3 people, and I separated the alphabet in 3 sections and had all 3 of these people spy on you guys. And I had to look for an interesting person or somebody who paid attention a lot, because I might want to ask that person to read next week or to share for 10 minutes. So my spies would spy on you guys, and that was a lot of fun. Because I'd call up one of my spies and say, hey, I'm looking for so-and-so. And they'd have to hunt that person down and send them a private message and ask for their phone number. And then they would call them up and say, the secretary would like you to participate next week. That didn't work because everybody thought they were going to be the speaker. All I was going to ask them to do is read the 12 steps, you know. But that was fun too. But anyways, going back to my early sobriety, I went from Simi Valley to a place called Roseburg, Oregon, because I had to follow my dad. I was underage. My brother and sister left home. My brother went and joined the United States Navy. My sister went and joined the Pacific Group, and I was stuck at home with my dad. And I remember sitting up in Roseburg, Oregon, and I was 17 years old and 2 years sober. And after that amount of time, I felt like I should be at least the general manager of the universe. And I was a little displeased with the fact that I was only bussing tables at Denny's. So I went and made my first major decision without my sponsor. Not recommended, by the way. And my first major decision at 2 years of sobriety is I too went and joined the United States Navy. I went into the Navy with 2 years of sobriety. I did 4 years, and I came out with 6 years of sobriety. So it can be done. It's a little hard, but it can be done. Now, they found out the boat that I was on that I was a sober member of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the captain made me what they called a CODA. Stood for Counsel on Drug and Alcohol Abuse. And he said, son, while you're on this boat, your job is going to be, if anybody gets in trouble behind alcohol, that they got to come see you and you can do your magic. I was on that boat for 3 years, 7 months, and 14 days, not that I was counting. And I must have 12-stepped 50, 60 guys. And none of them worked. None of them. I remember getting the call from the captain. He says, you know, I know you're a short timer. You got 2 weeks left in here, but we got to send one more guy down to see you. And I went, I don't want to do another one of these. I really don't. None of them ever worked. And I called up my sponsor. He didn't answer his phone. This is pre-cell phone days. This was pre-answering machine days. And he didn't answer his phone, so I called up my father, who was a great person for me to turn to, and he didn't answer his phone neither. And I called up my sister, Cindy. And I said, you know, I got to do another one of these 12-step calls. I've done 50, 60 of these things, and none of them ever worked. And she said, whoa, big boy. She says, are you still sober? I went, yep. She says, then every single one of them worked. And that's when I agreed to my innermost self that I hated my sister. But I tell you that story because now that we encountered that pandemic and we were on Zoom, folks, I have ran into 5 people that I 12-stepped 45 years ago. And they all range anywhere from 6 years sober to 27 years sober. And all of them pretty much said the same thing. I didn't want to hear what you had to say 45 years ago. But when I hit bottom, I knew where to go. So if you're sitting in this stadium today, not thinking that you're impacting anybody, you may be. You may be the only big book they ever get to see or hear. You just never know. I left the Navy. I went and joined the Pacific Group again. I saw some lady take a 9-month chip. I had 6 years of sobriety, and I'm one of those guys that believes in waiting until you have a year of sobriety before I ask you out. So I watched her for 3 months. The police report called it stalking. I call it watching. You know, somatics, you know. We ended up getting married. We had a couple kids. I have a son named Joe. We call him Eskimo Joe. I have a daughter named Sophia. He's 33. She's 28. And we started trudging this road together. We were married for 18 and a half years together. And then I had a little week from hell. And I tell you about this week not to complain, but to let you know that you can live through anything and stay sober. On Monday, that son that I love so much got jumped and beaten so badly he needed facial reconstructive surgery. And as a parent, that really, really hurts. On Tuesday, I found out that I was going to be losing an office building I bought for the family business. On Wednesday, I was charged with 2 felony counts of tax evasion. I found out the hard way my office manager was stealing my money and not paying payroll and employee tax, which makes it a federal offense. And because she stole so much, it was 2 felonies. On Thursday, I found out that we are going to be losing the house we lived in for the last 12 years. And on Friday, my wife, after 18 and a half years of marriage, announced a divorce. That's one hell of a week. And then I have friends like my buddy Matt right here, who I shared at a meeting right after that week happened. And I'm crying because it was all fresh. There's people in the audience crying with me because they identified. And then there's a thank you line that went through. Everybody's coming through, hugging me, offering me advice, trying to help, all that stuff. And Matt came through, and he says, Marty, that's a hell of a week. I went, yes, it is, Matt. And I wiped a couple tears off my cheek. And he says, I only have one question for you. And I says, what's that? He says, what the hell happened Saturday? So Mr. Saturday's right there. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I need that type of humor in my life. You know, because when I laugh, I forget about how much money I do or do not have in my pocket. When I laugh, I forget that rent is due. When I laugh, I forget how much gas is in my car. And when I laugh, I forget who I'm married to. Because today I remarried after that marriage, and I married to this great lady named Julie. I remember seeing her at the Pacific Group meeting. Now, if you get to hear her story, because she's got 17 years of sobriety, her story of how we met's a little different, but I got more sobriety, so my story's the truth. We walked up to each other, and I said, hi, my name's Marty. She says, yes, I know. I've seen you. I'm obsessed with you. I don't think I can live another day without you. And of course, I said, stand in line. Now, if you talk to her, she said, hi. Today, I live a great life. I wouldn't change anything in my life today. I've got a great marriage. That marriage came with another daughter. We're good. We're tight. My 33-year-old son just celebrated a year of sobriety. My life is good. I'm highly overpaid. I'll end with this, which means, of course, I got 5 more stories. But I'll end with this. I don't know what your solution is, and I barely know what mine is. But it seems like if I do a little bit of reading, a little bit of writing, a little bit of prayer and meditation, a little bit of meetings, a little bit of hanging out with you folks, I get to live a life beyond my wildest dreams. Which reminds me of the closing story of I met this guy in Alcoholics Anonymous who's a pharmacist, and his pharmacy started doing really good. And he went out and hired his first employee, which was a newcomer. The pharmacist walked up to his pharmacy the next day. The light was already on, the open signs blinking, people were walking around. The pharmacist walked in through the double door and noticed some guy just leaning heavily up against the wall, and he nodded to him. And he walked back to his pharmacy, and there's that newcomer with a big old smile on his face. And he says, son, you opened up a little bit early. He says, yes, I did, sir. I was so grateful that you gave me a job that I decided to open up early. And the pharmacist says, that's great. But what's wrong with that guy leaning heavily up against the wall by the front door? And the newcomer says, well, sir, he came in for a cough, and I couldn't get a hold of you. And the pharmacist says, what did you do? He said, I gave him a whole bottle of laxatives. And the pharmacist said, you idiot, you can't treat a cough with laxatives. And the newcomer says, you want to bet? He's afraid to cough. So I don't know what your solution is, but mine is a little bit of writing, a little bit of reading, a little bit of prayer and meditation, a little bit of meetings, and I live a great life. Thank you.
Thank you, Marty. Next up, our second speaker for this morning is Justin R. from New Hampshire.
My name is Justin. I am a recovered alcoholic. My sobriety date is November 10th, 2013. Thank you. Thank God. I come from the great state of New Hampshire. If you like trees, leaves, and drunks, we got a lot of them. I have a home group. I was told that's important. It's the Precise Method group. We meet Wednesday nights in Manchester, New Hampshire, and we study the book. So 7 o'clock on a Wednesday, if you're ever in our neck of the woods, come on by. We'll have a pot of coffee on for you. This is an incredible honor. It's insane to be here, really. Everyone's like, don't worry, it's just like a normal meeting. I'm like, I've never worn a Britney Spears mic to a normal meeting. You know, but we truly we stand on the shoulders of giants. Thank you to all the old timers who spoke last night. That was amazing. Let's hear it for them. And I looked around this stadium last night during that count up, and it's just the amount of hours of sacrifice that people have made so other people could have a chance to live it's incredible, and words can't describe it. I came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous at the age of 18. I didn't stay sober at 18. I got sober at 24 years old, so I got sober young. Where's my YPOs at? Any YPOs here? I can't believe you let him get through how it works. Come on. So I came in at 24 years old this last time, busted up, beaten, bad case of alcoholism, like that. It's in my bones. Hopeless. You know, it tells us in our literature that we got to be hopeless. Are we as hopeless as Bill? And like, I never thought I would relate to a stockbroker from the 30s, but 24-year-old kid, I can tell you I was hopeless as Bill. But I didn't know that until I met some guys in Alcoholics Anonymous who explained to me what alcoholism was. You know, they talked to me about the compulsion, the physical allergy, that like when I put one in me, I lose control. And they said, Justin, does your experience show you that? And I looked back, but like, wait, what about that one time I was able to have two? I'm just kidding. I was never able to have two. So like my experience showed me that. And they also explained that baffling feature of alcoholism. That one thing that like I didn't understand why when you remove me from it, 30 days, a week, 6 months, you put me up somewheres where like I can't. Why do I go back to it over and over again? You know, I continued to beat my head against the wall over and over again. So by the time I'd come into Alcoholics Anonymous, I'd be like, this isn't going to work. What are you going to, like, 90 meetings, 90 days, like, just think it through. Like, it's not going to work. Like, I've done this. I've tried this. But they told me, Justin, you have an obsession. You have an obsession of the mind, and that's where your problem centers. And they said that it's not a matter of if you're going to pick up, kid. It's a matter of when. And that made sense to me. Because my experience showed me that I pick up over and over and over again. And they said, kid, if you're going to expect to survive around here, you're going to have to get hooked up to a power. You know, I was grateful that, like, the men that I fell into in this time in Alcoholics Anonymous, they weren't the just don't drink guys. If you're a just don't drink guy, I love you. You've been kind to me too, you know, and if that works for you, great. But these men brought me through the book of Alcoholics Anonymous right away. Right away. Because I'm not a guy who can hold my breath, you know. I'm a guy who's like, within a couple days, my mind's going, you know, and my mind is full of calamity. My mind is telling me, Justin, why bother? You've done this before. You're going to fail. Why bother? So they got me hooked up right away. And my first meeting back this time, I did something really weird, which I never did before, is I raised my hand and I said I was new. You know? I'm usually the guy who, like, shows up after the meeting starts and then sneaks out after the prayer, like right before the prayer, because I didn't want any of the old timers to get me, you know? Because once the old timers get their claws in you, then you leave with a job. And, like, the last thing I wanted was a job, and I'm 24 years old. I'm like, I can't even hold my own job. Now I get a job in Alcoholics Anonymous. So I did this crazy thing, and I raised my hand and I said, I'm new. And I was at a men's meeting, and back east, at least at the men's meeting, they like to bust chops, and they busted my chops. And this guy came up to me after the meeting, and he said, hey, Justin, so we're looking for a coffee maker on Saturday night at the late night meeting. I said, Jim, that's awesome. I hope you find someone, right? And he said, he looks at me with that grin. You know the grin. And he goes, it's going to be you. And that next day, it was Saturday night, I showed up because you guys were the last people who would give me any responsibility. And that meant something to me. You guys gave me a key. I was like 2 days sober. You gave me a key to the clubhouse. You guys are wild. But, like, you were all that I had. My family changed the locks. They said, all right, buddy, you, like, hit us up if you're sober. You guys were all I had, you know? So I wasn't going to let you down. So I showed up early, and our group was out of coffee. So I stole coffee from another group. That's the guy I brought in here, right? You know, that's the guy I brought in here. I made amends for that. That group has plenty of coffee. You know, that guy who hired me was supposed to show up and show me how to use the machines, and he didn't. That guy is now my service sponsor, which is great. And I remember, like, as a 24-year-old kid, zero life skills, right? I couldn't do laundry. I could survive on the streets, but couldn't brew a pot of coffee. And those machines look so big, you know? They look so big. And but they're just normal coffee pots. And I made that coffee, and I made that coffee for over a year at that late-night meeting in Derry, New Hampshire, the only late-night meeting in New Hampshire, 10 p.m. On Saturday nights, Saturday Night Live. And I'm happy to say I just got reelected as coffee maker, you know. But in that group, I met the man that was going to put my hand in the hand of God's. This guy, Dave. And he was like that guy that, like, you did not want to ask to be your sponsor. Because he was one of the mean sponsors, you know. And I pray if you're new in here, you get yourself a mean sponsor. Because that guy put up with none of my nonsense, and he showed me how to live. You know, he walked me through these 12 steps. He helped me get connected to this God that saved my life. you know, this God that I rely on today. He showed me how to take care of others. I watched him, you know, and he hooked me up with all these other people, and I have a lot of, like, get in the car sobriety, you know. We'd be driving to Maine, we'd be driving to wherever, all over the place, and helping others. And by watching how this man treated drunks, it taught me how to treat my own family. So I didn't know how to be a son. I didn't know how to be a friend. I didn't know how to be an employee. I watched you guys. You guys taught me all that. I was a 24-year-old kid with no life skills, you know. You taught me that, hey, kid, if a bill comes, pay it. All right, that makes sense. How do I get a job? You apply. And you guys have always been good to me. No matter what room of Alcoholics Anonymous I've been in, you guys have always treated me so kind. I'm a guy who showed up to meetings drunk a lot. You know, that was my story for a while. And no one ever told me to go away. In fact, you guys told me, hey, Justin, we got a meeting tomorrow. We'd love to see you there. Or we're going out after. You want to come? You know? So if you had your last drink in the stadium parking lot, welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. You have a seat here. Do not ever let anyone tell you that you do not belong because they've been spoiled because they haven't seen a wet drunk in a while. Thank you. I've grown up in Alcoholics Anonymous. My whole adult life has been in Alcoholics Anonymous. I was a skinny little thing when I got here. Now I don't miss a meal. But, you know, I've gained family in Alcoholics Anonymous. I did a lot of kitchen table meetings, you know, and I was invited into people's homes. And I was not the kind of guy you'd want to invite into your home, you know. I got myself an AA mom and dad, you know. If you come in here young, a lot of times you're going to get yourself an AA mom and dad. And those two are sitting up front here with me today, Dan and Katie. I love you guys. I always had a seat at their table, you know. I always had family. My family lived hours away, and they made sure that I was a part of. And I got my little brother there who I met when he was 12, and now he's sober in the program, you know. And that's how this thing works, right? It's just... But it's not always easy, you know. Bill promises us that there will be certain trials and low spots, right? You know, and I had a mentor who once told me that, like, dark days are coming. Dark days are coming. If you haven't had a dark day, they're coming. And, like, what am I going to do when that happens? Am I ready, you know? Am I equipped with the tools? And it tells us in here, in this big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, that, like, I'll be okay if I do two things: work and self-sacrifice for others. You guys taught me that for me to live, I got to think about you. Because all I thought about was me. My whole entire life, I was a very self-centered, only child, did not care about you. You guys taught me how to think about others and have compassion. Because that self-centeredness, man, that will kill us. Our book says above everything else, we must be rid of self-centeredness. So I think Bill meant above everything else, you know? So, like, and, like, it's funny, like, because that stuff will still crop up. I still have to watch for that, right? You know, as soon as, like, I can be spiritually purring, and did my own awakening, and I'm doing really good, I'm all meditating, and as soon as I get in line at the Starbucks, oh my God, there's that one person who has that crazy order, they're taking forever, and then my head's going, you know? So I always got to be watching. Dark days are coming, trials and low spots. About 2 years ago, that man who put my hand in the hand of God Dave died suddenly of a heart attack. And that was my guy, 9 years he sponsored me. He knew me better than anyone else. And I was lost, I was lost. Because it's like, you want to call, something's going on, and you go to pick up the phone, and that guy who always answered, who could get you through the darkness, he's not there anymore. But what that man had done is he taught me how to rely on a higher power. He taught me the tools of Alcoholics Anonymous. Not just showing up to meetings, he taught me how to walk and do this thing in the world, And then so I continue to work with others. When everything's falling apart, my first instinct is I got to find someone to help. Because whenever I'd call that guy, I'd be like, you helping anybody? You helping anybody? Did you pray about it? No. All right, call me when you do, So I would go and help others, and now I hear that man when I carry the message to a newcomer. When I'm sitting with this book, and I got a newcomer in front of me, I hear that man. He's still with me. He's with me in the fellowship of the Spirit. About a year ago, and once my sponsor died, admittedly, I kind of hit the brakes a little bit on my program, right? I kind of fell back a little bit. I kind of stopped doing some of the disciplines, and I kind of fell into a little bit of untreated alcoholism. I was kind of living for me again, which will happen, right? That's why it's important to keep you guys around me, so you can remind me of that. And around the same time, about a year ago, my mother, my 54-year-old mother, who was number one on my resentment list, right? When I got here, and I would have blamed her for my alcoholism. She was the reason I was the way I was. She got diagnosed with cancer, bladder cancer. And by this point, I had made amends when I first got sober, and still it was a long process of reconstruction, and she was the one person who would drive me nuts. And my sponsor would always say, kid, it's not about you. I don't care how you feel. You show up and you be a son, because that's what you promised your mother when you made amends. You show up with that Mother's Day card. You show up with those flowers. It doesn't matter how she makes you feel. And I had a lot of other friends that weren't in the program, like, you better put boundaries up and blah, blah, blah. And I'm glad I didn't listen, and I listened to my sponsor. Because I caused that woman harm, a lot of harm. She probably the reason she was because of me, And she gets diagnosed with cancer, and I'm able to show up for that. When I was out there, my grandfather passed, and he begged for me to come visit him in the hospital for a month, and I couldn't, because I couldn't put down the drink. Things have changed now because of you. I was able to show up. I was able to bring that lady to chemo. I was able to be part of that process. And my mother, she struggled with alcohol, and I'd always pray for her to get sober, When she got diagnosed, she stopped drinking. And I got a year with that woman, sober. And she became my best friend. And last December, it started getting a little dicey. The cancer came back. She was rushed into ICU one day. And this lady is a spitfire. She is sassy. She is strong. Strongest woman I've ever met. She was fighting to the very end. And she's rushed into ICU. And my dad says, you better come down from New Hampshire and visit and come see her, because we don't know. So I get in there, and she's in there, and she's so frail. And I just hold that woman. And she says to me, she says, Jay, you are the best thing that's ever happened to me. 11 years ago, she said, get out of my house. You've ruined our lives. Me and your father are going to get a divorce because of you. In that hospital room, she said, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. And I was able to tell her, Mom, you're the greatest mom that I could ever have. I would have missed that if not for you guys. I would have missed that without the steps. I would have missed that without amends. I would have missed that if I didn't listen to direction and show up, no matter how it made me feel. She passed away January 28th. We brought her home on hospice. She was there on hospice for about a week. Every single day, members of Alcoholics Anonymous drove 3 hours, showed up at my family's house to be with me and my family. That's who we are. That's who Alcoholics Anonymous is. We had that funeral. I think we had probably 50 members of Alcoholics Anonymous there. I'm standing in the receiving line. People are bringing me Red Bulls, Starbucks, nicotine pouches. My dad's like, geez, this looks like this should be happening in the parking lot. I'm like, but you guys held me up. You held my family up. My family will forever be grateful for Alcoholics Anonymous. You gave my mom 11 years of her son. That was her best wish. All she wanted was her son to live. You gave that to her. Thank you. Like, it's unbelievable. I got about 25 seconds, but I want to read something from the book, because I think that's why we're here. It amazes me how 90 years ago, Bill, Dr. Bob, Ebby, all those things that we could have just went a different way, we wouldn't be here, happened divinely. So thousands of us could restore our lives, restore our families, help others around us. There is a vast amount of fun about it all. I suppose some would be shocked at our seeming worldliness and levity. But just underneath there is a deadly earnestness. Faith has to work 24 hours a day in and through us, or we perish. Most of us feel we need to look no further for utopia. We have it with us right here, right now. Each day, my friend's simple talk in our kitchen multiplies itself in a widening circle of peace on earth and goodwill to men. Do we not have that, or what? Gracias por mi vida. Merci por mi vie. Thank you for my life.
Thank you so much, Justin. That was wonderful. Our third speaker this morning is my good friend Paz. I know, be great. And please, if you're one of those that likes to leave as soon as you think the meeting might be over, please don't leave after Paz is done speaking, because we do have some more programming for you. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Paz, and I am an alcoholic. My heart is full of joy and gratitude. I am humble to be here with you. My sobriety date is August 1997, and my home group is 4 de enero, January 4th, in Tucson, Arizona. This is a Spanish-speaking meeting, and I would love to tell you, I would love to include the date I came to AA, but I don't remember. I was just going to the group to see what you can do for me, but I wasn't sure that you can help me. And by the time I turned back, the date, it was gone on my head. So I know it was August. I am the kind of alcoholic who simply doesn't understand social drinking. When my doctor concerned asked me if I was drinking too much, I honestly said no, because I was thinking my drinking was normal. It was normal to me anyway. I am original from Mexico. I lived in Mexico City until I was 33 years old, And that's the city where I first found this program. I was actually at work trying to get something done when I turned on the radio and they were interviewing 2 AA members on the radio. It may be the pounding headache or the hangover from the night before, or maybe it was just the poor pain or being alive, but the words, what they were saying on the radio, just grabbed me, stayed with me. I couldn't ignore them. I often think about that couple I hear on the radio all these years ago. I never meet them, but I wish them a sober life full of joy. And to anyone here, out there, who has shared their story, whatever it was in the Grapevine, La Viña, the Grapevine podcast, or any other magazine in your part of the world, thank you. You may never know the full impact, but I want to let you know I am here because of you, because of your sharing. So I decided to call the radio station, right, for more information. When the person on the other side of the line answered my call, I made up the name, claiming it was for a friend of mine. You have to know, Mexico City has 20 million people. Who cares who is calling the radio? No one cares. But I was thinking they are going to recognize me. The person who answered the radio, asked me where I was and gave me the closest group to my work. They even told me the group have a phone number and give me that too. They asked me to call ahead to confirm the opening hours, what time is the meeting. So I called. A woman answered the phone and gave me the schedule for that day. And then she offered to pick me up from work and take me to the meeting. Honestly, I was so offended. I remember thinking, what made her think I need a ride to the meeting? I tried to be polite and I said thank you. And I told her I will be there at 4 o'clock. My first meeting was probably like many other meetings you have attended in AA. They told me the program will give me a useful and happy life. And there was a solution for my drinking problem. And you know what? That implication that I was useless and unhappy, it really bothered me. Plus, none of them knew what I was capable of doing just to keep drinking. They have no idea the lengths I will go. I took money from my mom. I took money from my dad. I steal money from them. I stole alcohol from the stores. I stole alcohol from friends. I do whatever it took to keep drinking. But then something happened. During that first meeting, one of the members shared about his relapse. And that really got me. I was thinking that AA demands perfection. No one told me, but I was thinking demands perfection. That I couldn't fail. That if I relapse in AA, you will not take me back. So hearing him talk about his relapse is actually give me a relief to know that I could keep trying if I fail. And I didn't fail. until for 24 hours and 24 hours and more 24 hours. They also, in that meeting, they also talk about family, work, and how the program helped them. And that I was very curious because I didn't talk with my family. It was like, I didn't talk, I barked. I was barking with my family. I was a problem with my family. And I was incapable of having a conversation with them. And they told me it was a solution if I keep going to the meeting. And everyone, absolutely everyone, told me the same thing. Don't drink for 24 hours, just 24 hours. I went back the next day and the next. And then they start pushing me to find a sponsor to guide me through the program. They were very persistent, very pushy, and honestly, it was annoying. I took my pride and I asked two women, and they both say no. One of them said, you are looking for a mom, looking for someone from your own age. The other told me, you know what, I am a mom, I have children, you are single, look for someone who is single, they can help you, they can provide more guidance. And I asked the third person, and she said yes. I actually was surprised to attend my first meeting and to find that I was members that they got family and children. They got married and they have a boyfriend and girlfriends. Because for me, everything was about drinking. I wasn't interested to make a family. I was not interested to get married or find someone. I was just looking to drink. My sponsor, my first sponsor, had this annoying habit of always quoting the steps. One time, she quoted the step 10. She said, I am paraphrasing here, it is a spiritual action that every time we are disturbed, no matter what the cause, there is something wrong with us. And if we are sore, we are in the ground also. And that day, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So even if I am right, I cannot express my thinking of you or reply back. And that night, I rushed to my room and I started reading the 10th step in my 12 of 12 book. I was convinced that my sponsor was wrong. But she wasn't. There was no mistake. I actually started reading the 12 and 12 book, the 12 and 12 first, and just trying to find a short way, just to contradict my sponsor, to justify myself, not because I thought it will help me to my drinking problem. It took me a long time to start reading the big book. First, I read the 12 steps. That was easy. My mind could read and understand that. It wasn't until I began the third step that I finally started reading the big book. It took me a moment to do that. Many of my Hispanic fellow members in AA share how their moms bless and are grateful for AA. My mom was not one of them. My mom was very angry with AA, and I understand her point of view. She will say, how is possible that some strangers tell you to stop drinking when I ask you, demand you, beg you to stop, and you didn't listen to me. She was right. It took some time to accept that what AA meant to me, to my family. It wasn't that I love more AA than my mother. It was simply that I need AA to be able to understand, give, and accept her love as a mom. I need AA to start talking with my mom and my dad and my brothers. I need you to inspire me on how to be with my family. My sponsor inspired me to be to do better and work the steps, the traditions, and the big book. Her example also made me feel grateful for everything she was doing for me. I keep saying every time we met, how can I give you thank you? How can I express my gratitude? And she always said that she was doing that for her own recovery. I didn't understand that. I didn't have a clue of the meaning. She also told me that if I was truly grateful, I could do something for the group in any way. And I said yes. And every time when there was an opportunity, I offered to wash the coffee cups, the ashtrays, and yes, that's how old I am. I was never happier than when I raised my hand to join the weekend cleaning crew for the group. It took me a while to learn. I am guided by the inspiration of so many of you. I started washing the cups and ashtrays at my home group before I did anything at home. I cleaned my group before to clean my house. It didn't occur to me, I didn't think that I have to do also that at home. I didn't give money at home until I hear a newcomer in my group saying he was so happy because it was the first time he took his full check to home. That day, for the first time, I went to the grocery shopping and I took some groceries at home. I have no idea what was missing at home, but I just want to bring something. I understood later that serving means to be grateful for what I have received from my sponsor, from many of you, and for AA. In 2000, I moved to Arizona to take care of my grandmother, and oh boy, the cultural shock was something else. It was incredibly different from what I used to be. First, the language. Learning a new language is tough. It is painful, and it demands patience and dedication, qualities I struggle to have. Even now, my emotions live in my first language. The Serenity Prayer, for example, fills my heart when I say it in Spanish, much more so than English. It took me so many years to start feeling emotion in the second language. Another big challenge was the lack of Spanish-speaking women in the Hispanic community in AA. When I moved in Tucson, we were only 4 of us. At my very first meeting in Mexico City, a woman opened the door for me, another woman chaired the meeting, and another woman gave me my first cup of coffee. I have no idea that it wasn't like that in another part of the world. So I want to spend the rest of my time here saying hi to my dear Spanish-speaking sister in AA. I really know how hard it is. I know. to navigate AA as a Spanish-speaking woman. I have attended too many recovery meetings where I am the only woman. I've been in too many business meetings where I am the only woman with voice and vote. I attend one state convention when I was the only woman, Hispanic woman in attendance. And I've been in too many events where the program is entirely male speakers and no woman is even considered to share. Thank you. We are often told that we are too emotional or problematic because males are not, especially Hispanic male. I have shortcoming based in gender instead of the work we have to do with our own shortcomings. And yes, at times I feel hopeless, frustrated, offended, tired, or powerless. But then I remember why I keep coming back. Because if another woman is walking through the door for the first time to a Spanish-speaking meeting, I want to be the one to give her the coffee. Thank you. I enjoy Spanish meetings, English meetings, online meetings, in-person meetings, women's meetings, study meetings. It takes a village to keep me away from drinking. It takes that much. I've been so grateful for the life you give me today. I feel humble and I feel more than supported and more than anything you can do. I lost my brother and when I was 2 years in the fellowship, and that's how much my sponsor cared for me. She was very, very pregnant when my brother passed away, and it broke my heart and it broke my family apart. And at the funeral, she was there holding my hand. And for that, I am so grateful for AA and everything. My name is Paz, and I am here to serve you. Thank you. Gracias.
Look at that. Thank you so much, Paz. And thank you to all of our speakers. Paz, Marty, Justin, thank you so much. This weekend, thousands of us have shared in a wonderful celebration of our great AA fellowship, with people sharing and speaking the language of the heart all over this beautiful city. It is impossible to thank all of those involved in making this convention a success, but it certainly couldn't have happened without the assistance of all of the wonderful AA and Al-Anon Welcome Committee volunteers. Over 3,500 volunteers spent countless hours getting ready to welcome us. They have done so graciously and so well. Now I would like to welcome 3 remarkable members whose hard work and dedication have been a powerful example to all of the volunteers. I'd like to welcome to the stage Trish L., Maureen M., and Kirsten M., the chair and 2 co-chairs of the 2025 Vancouver Volunteer Welcome Committee. Thank you so much. few words, please. Thank you, Trish.
Hello. Bonjour. Hola. My name is Trish, and I'm an alcoholic. As Teresa said, it's impossible to thank all of those involved. I will say, though, that the evolution of the Welcome Committee is really similar to that of AA. It started with a chair and then expanded to a chair and two co-chairs, Maureen and Kirsten. And then 3 more came along to form a core committee. Amazing people. Subi, our registrar. Stand up. Stay standing. Dave F., our secretary. Where are you, Dave? And Diamond D., our treasurer. Woo! I hear over there. And then the message of service got carried to our 14 subcommittee chairs, co-chairs, and liaisons. We are so proud of you. Stand up right now. And then it got carried to the amazing volunteers who have turned up in the thousands, and in fact, the latest figure is pretty much 4,000 people doing 6,000 shifts of service this weekend. So everybody who volunteered this weekend, please stand up so we can thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you to the General Service Board for putting your faith in us. Thank you to Patrick C. for your unending patience. Thank you to the tally team, and especially Alexis for herding the cats. And Carolyn W., thank you for bringing it home. And of course, none of this could have happened without the AA members who went before us, paving the way for us to be able to even put in a bid way back when. Jack F., Alex P., Fred C., and all the other giants upon whose shoulders we stand, look at what you have made possible. You are so with us today. One more drink and we would have missed this. We would all also like to thank our families for their support both over the years and especially for the time spent leading up to now. And I would especially like to thank my husband, Arnie G. I love you. On behalf of the Volunteer Welcome Committee, thank you, all of you. Merci, gracias. Thank you.
So much. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trish.
So nice to meet you.
Same. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. Thank you. All right. Thank you so much, and thanks to our speakers once again. Let's give all of them a big round of applause. In closing, I would like to read an excerpt from Chapter 2 in the Big Book, which was first published, of course, in 1939. We of Alcoholics Anonymous know thousands of men and women who were once just as hopeless as Bill. Nearly all have recovered. They have solved the drink problem. We are average Americans. All sections of this country and many of its occupations are represented, as well as many political, economic, social, and religious backgrounds. We are people who normally would not mix. But there exists among us a fellowship, a friendliness, and an understanding which is indescribably wonderful. We are like the passengers of a great liner, the moment after rescue from shipwreck, when camaraderie, joyousness, and democracy pervade the vessel from steerage to captain's table. Unlike the feelings of the ship's passengers, however, our joy in escape does not subside as we go our separate ways. The feeling of having shared in a common peril is one element in the powerful cement which binds us, but that in itself would never have held us together as we are now joined. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution. I am profoundly grateful that AA provided me with a solution to my drinking problem, my thinking problem, and my living problem. Thank you all for helping me stay sober another day. Thank you for being part of my sobriety and being a part of my family. Please help me welcome Scott back to the stage for a special message. Scott.
Still Scott, still an alcoholic. Wow, eh? It's been an amazing few days for me, and I really hope that it has been for you. And as you heard Trish start to say a lot, it hasn't happened without the effort of a lot of people. And we've acknowledged a lot of people, and the last group that I want to acknowledge this morning is our General Service Office staff as a whole, led by our General Manager, Bob W. When I was standing here on Friday night, and as I stand here this morning, I'm struck by that line in Tradition 1, where it says, each of us is a small part of a great whole. And I think we can look around and see that. And while we might each be a small part, we are each a vital part. The future of Alcoholics Anonymous is up to each one of us. Whether AA is here in the future for the still suffering alcoholic will depend on the efforts of all of us. On Friday night, I talked about an opportunity to celebrate, an opportunity to meet new friends and reconnect with old ones. And I hope you've had that opportunity. I know I have. And meeting so many of you has been the most joyous part of the weekend for me, and I thank you for that. But I also spoke about this being an opportunity to re-energize our commitment to help the still suffering alcoholic. And it's now time to carry that energy forward. In the book, Alcoholics Anonymous Comes of Age, Bill W. speaks of what is required of us as AA members: a sacrifice of much time and a little money. And when I look up the definition of sacrifice in a dictionary, what I find is that it's giving up something of value for something with a higher calling. So a sacrifice of time is not my spare time, because my spare time, like my spare change, has no value. A sacrifice of time is where I might prefer to be doing something else. Every minute of my life for more than 26 and a half years has been a gift to me given by Alcoholics Anonymous. But for Alcoholics Anonymous, I wouldn't have seen my children get out of elementary school. I wouldn't have seen them graduate from high school. I wouldn't have had a chance to see them graduate from university and get married. I'd have missed the birth of my grandchildren. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to laugh and cry with my family and friends. and I wouldn't have the best friend in the world that I have. When I think of the time that I give to Alcoholics Anonymous, I must ask myself, just as you might ask yourself, am I really making a sacrifice for Alcoholics Anonymous? For me, that 1 hour each week that I take to go to my home group, that's not a sacrifice. Neither is the 2 or 3 or 4 hours that I spend going to other meetings. If I'm involved in service outside of my home group, whether that's acting as a general service representative, whether that's participating in a central office or intergroup, whether it's taking a meeting into a hospital or a prison, meeting with sponsees, this might be the beginning of a sacrifice. But even if I do that for 10 hours a week, that's only 6% of my time in a week. Would I gladly give up 6% of my time to spend the other 94% with my family? Would my family happily give up 6% of my time for another 26 and a half years with me? Would I gladly give up 6% of my time for this life? I can tell you I would happily give up far more than that. This life is worth far more than that. All of the money I have in my pocket was given to me by Alcoholics Anonymous. Dead men have no money in their pockets. Everything I have in my life I owe to Alcoholics Anonymous. When I put money in the basket as it goes past me, whether it's $5 or $20, I'm just giving Alcoholics Anonymous back a little bit of the money that it has given to me. I give back to Alcoholics Anonymous a very small fraction of the time and money that Bill spoke of, that Alcoholics Anonymous has given me. I ask myself on a regular basis, what am I willing to sacrifice to help the still suffering alcoholic from dying that alcoholic death that we all so narrowly escaped? I find often I'm not satisfied with my own answer. What I know is there are tens of millions of alcoholics who need our help. Am I willing to sacrifice a few things? Time, money, my opinions, my need to be right, my need to get my way? I ask myself, am I really a different person than arrived here in Alcoholics Anonymous? Or am I still concerned with my own comfort, my own wants, my own decisions about what I must have in order to have a good life? Again, sometimes I'm not happy with my own answer. When I look around this stadium at the thousands of people whose lives have not simply been restored, but thousands of people who've been given new lives, lives with purpose and meaning, freedom and joy, I ask myself, and I ask each of you, what will I report when we next gather 5 years from now? What will I report about the sacrifices that I've been willing to make to help some alcoholic I will never meet avoid being doomed to the alcoholic death that alcoholics have been doomed to in the history of man? What will I sacrifice to help that person be given the opportunity for a new life the way that we've been given that opportunity? These past 3 days have been a joyous time, a time where we've been able to celebrate these new lives. And we've done much good since we've been here. But there's a lot more work to do before each of us can report back next time. I look forward to hearing those reports from you when we next gather like this. And I would be delighted to hear your reports along the way, because what I know is we will surely meet as we trudge this road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then.
That was fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Scott. All right, we've come to the time. Please help me close this meeting with the third step prayer. God, I offer myself to Thee to build with me and to do with me as Thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do Thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of Thy power, Thy love, and Thy way of life. May I do Thy will always. Thank you so much. But wait, but wait, but wait, but wait, but wait. Don't you want to know where we're going in 5 years? We're going to my home region.
Explore St. Louis. And on behalf of our entire city, our region, and our team at Explore St. Louis, I'm thrilled to welcome Alcoholics Anonymous to St. Louis for your 2030 International Convention. As you celebrate 95 years of hope, healing, and global unity, St. Louis will be honored to host you and your families July 4th through the 7th, 2030. You'll experience world-class attractions like the Gateway Arch, breathtaking fireworks over the Mississippi River, and neighborhoods rich with culture, food, and music. From inspiring workshops to your iconic flag ceremony, we can't wait to be a part of your meaningful milestone. St. Louis is ready to welcome you with open arms and open hearts. See you in 2030.
This concludes Alcoholics Anonymous 90th Anniversary International Convention. Please enjoy the rest of your day and safe travels home.